Welcome to Pre-Snap Podcast, presented by LineStar app. Here's your host, Casey Bubba and Scott Bogman.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pre-Snap Podcast, brought to you by the wonderful people at LineStar Sports. Make sure you check them out on Twitter at LineStar app and at LineStar NFL. And most importantly, download the app in the Apple App Store. Everything you need in the palm of your hands to build your winning DFS lineups. We're here to preview your 4-game divisional round action for you. 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 4-game slate to get you rocking and rolling into the fun-filled weekend. In order to do so, you can find me on Twitter at BDentric, and my co-host is always on Twitter at Bogman Sports. Scott Bogman, how we doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. This is going to be a fun, this is kind of the last normal-ish lineup with 8 teams, and 4 games. So next week we're going to be down, of course, to the championship round, only 4 teams total. So you have a little variety. You can break things up. The next couple weeks after this, though, it's going to become very, very chalky. So this is kind of your last round where you have a decent mix. So kind of bringing a tear to the eye, seeing the season come to the end here. I mean, my season is already over for the Steelers. Been doing a lot of off-season research already, Bub. So
yes, you're starting quarterback Mason Rudolph. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Looking good.
I mean, why do you got it? Bub tweeted me the other day after Tomlin said, well, yeah, those guys will be given the opportunity to win the job between Haskins and Rudolph. And I know all signs point to Rudolph and everything, but come on, man. Let me just hope for Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota or something before you stomp on me. I mean, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson would be amazing, but why the hell would those guys want to go play behind Pittsburgh's line? I have no idea. So. Yeah,
it's a bit of a problem, bit of a conundrum there. So, wouldn't plan on that. Maybe 1 year Mason Rudolph to get you that number 1 pick would be a good idea. Just throwing it out there. Just we can get through it together. Okay. I can teach you what losing feels like. But let's talk DFS. Let's give the people what they want here. 4 games, 4 fun games, 4 offensively gifted games. And we'll kick things off with the probably most offensive game of the slate. Buffalo at Kansas City Sunday night, wrapping up your weekend. Kansas City minus 1.5 point favorites in this one. The over-under is 54.5. There's a lot to like in this game, Boggs.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of separated it by
sorry. Yes, you did.
Positions here because we are down to the nitty-gritty, but there is a lot to like in that game. Look, Joe Burrow's price here of 6,600 makes him probably my favorite starting quarterback of this week, right? I think that this value and the heater that he's been on makes him incredibly affordable. You look at the guys under Burrow with Stafford, Tannehill, Garoppolo. I mean, Garoppolo is going to be a low ownership, right, Bub? Because the Niners are playing on the road. Tannehill, you expect, if Derrick Henry's healthy, you expect him to hand the ball off 40 times to Derrick Henry, right? If the Titans are going to be winning, that's your expectation. Matthew Stafford hasn't been playing great. Then you have the guys above him. Brady, with this offensive line, I don't know if I want Brady this week in terms of DFS. I'm definitely picking the Bucs, and I would pay more for Burrow, which kind of surprises me. They're not separated by a lot, $200 between Burrow and Brady. Rodgers right above him. Would I want Rodgers more? I mean, maybe, but I'm saving $500. Mahomes has been great. Josh Allen, they're both the expensive guys. So if you're looking to afford something bigger in your lineup, maybe you want to go with a Derrick Henry. Maybe you want to go with a Cooper Kupp. Maybe get a high-end defense here. I think Burrow is going to be my favorite quarterback this week.
Yes, as Bobby mentioned, I got my ahead of my skis here. We're doing this by position, not by game, with 4 games. So the quarterback position, I agree. Burrow's a great play. I got no problem if you want to punt going to Ryan Tannehill, because as much as I like Derrick Henry, everyone's going to play Henry, so Tannehill will be low owned. And
if they do get down,
exactly.
I picked Cincinnati in that game. If they get down, they are going to have to play catch up. And AJ Brown is healthy, Julio's healthy, so
and you have to
ask a better passing game.
And you have to ask just how much do they want to rely on Derrick Henry? Like, do they want to go full workload? What do they want to do there? So I think you might get more Tannehill than you expect at 58 and 73. I think he's quite intriguing. I have no problem with Joe Burrow, but for me, it's like play Tannehill or don't mind Rodgers, but pretty much play Tannehill or play Allen or Mahomes. That's just where I'm at on this one. I think that Allen, like Buffalo, Kansas City, should be points aplenty in that game. So I have no problem with that at all. But Tannehill would be my cheap guy. If you want to go there, I don't mind it at all. Like I said, you can make arguments for anybody not named Matt Stafford or Jimmy G pretty much in my book.
Right.
But I'd probably go Tannehill for sure if I'm saving. If not, I just might pay for Josh Allen because if we think Kansas City's going to win, Buffalo's going to keep pushing from behind. And even if
high
Buffalo,
over either way too.
yeah, and if Buffalo wins, we know he's going to get it via the legs, via the air. It doesn't matter. So I like Josh Allen in a lot of ways for that reason.
I think those are probably the two best to buy, in my opinion, are going to be Burrow and Josh Allen. So you're more high or low.
Yep.
I'm Burrow or Josh Allen. I'm with you.
And Burrow's fine. Running back, though, now it gets fun. You got Derrick Henry back. He's 7,500 on DK, 9,000 on FanDuel. That's the cheapest he's been in forever, obviously coming off his injury. But all the running backs, just like last week, there's really not too many expensive options here. So where do you feel like planting your flag on this one?
Well, look, I think you have to ask yourself, and Bub, you kind of mentioned your stance on this already. Are the Titans going to give the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times? I think it's going to be close to that. I really do, because I think this is what you've been saving Derrick Henry for. This is why you put him on the extended IR. This is why you didn't bring him back at the end of the year, even though they had some rough go. You know, they won a couple of huge games without Derrick Henry right after. I know they beat the Rams. I can't remember the other team they beat. Then they kind of hit a slump. You know, they lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to a couple other squads where you're like, really? What's going on here? You know, but I think this is why you keep him on IR for so long, to make sure he's healthy for this game. So if you want to pay up for Derrick Henry, I completely understand it. After that, Joe Mixon is a fine buy at 66 and 78. I'm not paying up for Aaron Jones at 68 and 75. Not with the fact that this is going to be a cold weather game. They're going to give the ball to AJ Dillon if they get up in the second half, which I think a lot of people expect them to be up against the Niners. That is the biggest line of the week. Seems like maybe the biggest mismatch of the week as well. I love Devin Singletary here, Bub, at 59 and 72, because you've mentioned this week after week after week. They keep giving him the ball, right? They just keep giving him the ball over 20 times every single game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And they said, I saw a stat. I can't remember exactly what it was earlier today. He having 6 or 7 touchdowns the first 13 weeks. He's had 7 since.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Highest over of the week. And he could not run well into Kansas City's defense and still end up with 2 touchdowns. It would not be
because the beauty is, almost every team we're going to talk about has 2 running backs. The Bills all of a sudden just have 1 pretty much, because he's getting the pass work and the running work. So if they're playing from behind, he gets all the dump offs. If they're in charge, he'll get 20 carries. We've seen it both ways for the last 6 weeks. And he still gets you nearly 20 DK points every week.
After Singletary, Bub, I feel like, in my opinion, it starts to get a little murky, right? Because Eli Mitchell has a knee injury, didn't practice on Wednesday. We're going to see, I expect him to be fine for the game. He's been dragging around this knee injury since I think week 14. So it's no surprise that he's not practicing. They gave him the ball 27 times again. So they are giving him the ball a lot. But once again, we expect the Niners to be down and passing to play catch up. So Eli Mitchell could not factor in that. He doesn't catch the ball very well out of the backfield. Leonard Fournette is coming back off of his injury. So what is his usage going to be? Ronald Jones got hurt as well and hasn't been practicing this week. Cam Akers had the big game against the Cardinals last week, out-touched Sony Michel too, which was enormous for him. But now you go up against, in my opinion, the best run defense in the NFL in Tampa Bay. Buffalo is very good too. But I just like the way Tampa Bay has been playing. So don't really want to mess with Akers. Foreman is your next price guy up. Nope, not with Derrick Henry back. I can't do it. Sonny Michel got out-touched by Cam Akers, plus once again, bad run D. Clyde Edwards-Helaire back to practice. Number 1 run D in the NFL is Buffalo, so not going to be on my list. A.J. Dillon is okay at 51. I think that's a decent price. Gio Bernard at 5,000, 5,400. I don't hate, but he got a little nicked up as well. But if you do, if both these offensive linemen are out in Wirfs and Jensen for Tampa Bay, maybe you want a little bit misdirection towards Leonard Fournette, towards Gio Bernard in the flat, just to get some pressure off of Brady early. So I could see those guys making some plays. My favorite cheap running back, easily Jerick McKinnon at 48 and 6,000, Bub. I mean, the way that he looked against Pittsburgh last week, the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't 100%, Darrell Williams has not practiced, and Derek Gore is not that good. I mean, I just love Jerick McKinnon at this price of 48 and 6,000. After that, I'm not interested in Vaughn, Wilson, Gore, Darrell Williams, any of those guys. So for me, my biggest plays are going to be Jerick McKinnon, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Devin Singletary.
Yeah, I don't mind Derrick Henry at all. Like I said, I like kind of using Tannehill as a cheapie, but you can use Tannehill and Henry together if you really want to. That's totally fine. So if you want to use Henry, go for it. Just have your conviction behind it. Other than that, like I love Devin Singletary. I've been rolling him time and time again. I'll continue to roll him out there. Keep an eye on the Tampa Bay situation. Like if playoff Lenny's in, I'm intrigued. I don't think they're going to play him if he's not ready to roll. So I'm intrigued with him. But my next guy after Singletary, I'd love Cam Akers this week. I liked him last week. Literally the first 2 drives, he got the carry from the 5, didn't get in. Then the second drive, they gave Stafford 3 carries from the 1 instead of giving Akers 1 chance. So like it could have been a big Akers week. I'll go back to Akers for the fact if we do believe, which we both do, that Tampa Bay kind of does their thing here, Akers is the receiving back. Dump off City. We've seen it time and time again.
He did catch one ball. It was for 40 yards, but you know who threw that was also Odell Beckham Jr. That was a weird trick play. So
but they also didn't need to do a lot of dumping off last week.
Very true. Very true.
And in weeks past, when he was healthy, he was a great receiving back. So I'm going Cam Akers at 55 and 57. I like him quite a bit for that mold. And then A.J. Dillon, I don't mind. I always like him for value because it's like a 60-40 split kind of deal. So he should get his work. But I love the Jerick McKinnon call, especially if CEH comes back because hopefully it keeps people off McKinnon. But if that game's going back and forth, A, how healthy is CEH? And B, McKinnon will be the receiving back. So I'm a fan of that as well. So I like McKinnon quite a bit to pair up with, your Akers, your Singletaries, your Henrys and whatnot. But for the most part, I'll be able to save some cash at running back to help me pay up at quarterback or at receiver and tight end this week, which there's plenty of options. So who you liking at the wide receiver position?
I mean, there's a lot to like, especially at the front. You have some of the best wide receivers in the NFL in this slate. Kupp, Adams, Debo, Jamar, Mike Evans, Tyreek, Diggs, AJ Brown, so many good wideouts. So it's kind of tough to even break up this top end, but I'll try to do it real quick here. I'm into Cooper Kupp and Debo Samuel because those are both teams that I think lose this week. So I think they are going to be playing catch up. And I think that you see some garbage time from both of those guys potentially. So those are my favorite. I'll take Kupp over Devontae if I'm going to pay all the way up for one. I'll take Debo probably over like Mike Evans or even Jamar Chase, just because they use him so much. Even if the Niners do win this game and win this game going away, Debo had 10 carries last week, dude. He's going to touch the football. They're getting it into his hands any way they possibly can. So Debo has just been incredible. I think my favorite buy of the week, the whole week though, here, Bob, is Stephon Diggs at 65 and 78. He's a little, Tyreek at 66 and 82 is worth it as well. There's a little bit of worry about Tyreek going into the Pittsburgh game, but he played perfectly fine. Did not look like he lost a step at all. Got open in that second quarter and was dangerous. Same thing for Diggs. We expect this to be a big shootout type of a game. The over is the highest of the week, so I'm in on buying both of those guys. AJ Brown, I just think you want to run the ball with Derrick Henry, so he's not going to be my favorite buy, but it should make him a little bit lower owned. Mike Evans needs to get open down the field a little bit to get the ball, and we have 2 injured offensive linemen for the Bucs. If they're both out, I'm definitely taking Evans off my board, right? So he's not going to be an option for me. What do you think of this top end before we move down to the lower guys, Bob?
Kupp's always in play. I don't mind Adams either, but I like Debo the best up top here just for the fact you mentioned he's going to get it in the receiving game and the running game. He's going to get his fair share of love. So I like Debo for sure at 76 and 86. If the Niners try to keep up, he'll be a big part of that attempt to keep up in that game. I still like Mike Evans. We've seen it the last few weeks since Godwin's gone down. It's the Evans and Gronk show for the most part. That's what it is because they have out of necessity. So Evans isn't strictly a deep guy anymore. He's kind of getting a little bit of everything. So he's
always
Evans
a red zone threat too.
Bingo. So I think Evans is just fine. He'll come in basically unowned in this upper tier. And I still like A.J. Brown a bit, but again, you've been more on the feed Derrick Henry train. I'm more on the Henry will get his, but I think Tennessee can pass in this game. And a guy of A.J. Brown's talent level is far too cheap. at 62 and 76. Like it's a big price discrepancy indeed. So I kind of like that. And he'll go unowned also because Stephon Diggs and Tyreek are right there. So I kind of like to go that way to be a little different in the situation.
Moving down here to the next group of prices. Look, T. Higgins ghosted me last week, man. I was all about T. Higgins, and he made me look like a fool. Obviously, they got Jamar Chase in that matchup that I thought they were going to get Higgins in, and that is what won them the game, was passing the ball to Chase. So Chase has just been too hot, so Higgins, I'm not paying for him. OBJ, though, at 53 and 65, Bub. Once again, we expect the Rams to be down. I love this price. Are you in on OBJ?
I like him a lot because as we saw last week, and I know we'll see it with this Bucs team, this is why I'm kind of – you can always play Cup, but they're going to double him like crazy. It's going to open things up for OBJ in a big way, and we've seen Stafford and OBJ's rapport kind of grow over the last few weeks. So I like OBJ quite a bit at this price point.
I like Brandon Ayuk too. Same reasoning. Just the Niners should be down, and he is really, remember, he started out the year so bad.
His last 4 or 5 weeks, he's been awesome.
He's really shown what he has, and I think he's nursing that hamstring injury for a big chunk of the season too. Tyler Boyd, not really interested in. Julio, I'm not really interested in. Gabe Davis at 46 is a decent price. I'm not going to do the Lazard MVS, none of that. Pringle at 42 is okay. Jefferson's a little nicked up, so he's not my favorite. Same thing with Manny. He's a little too inconsistent. I like Cole Beasley's price at 4,000 and 5,200. Guy's just a red zone threat. Love that. I also really like Jawan Jennings as a cheap guy at 34 and 5,000 for the Niners. Guy keeps being on the field and making a play or two a game at least. And like we said, we expect the Niners to be down and playing catch up late. So Jennings could get some of those passes, and they designed things for him too. In the second quarter, you saw him catch a pass against Dallas. He has looked pretty solid recently, so he's probably my favorite cheap buy out of all these wide receivers, Bob.
Yeah, I love Ayuk. We talked about OBJ. I love Ayuk because of the consistency he's had. And again, if we think that the Niners are going to either play to keep up or just play from behind, Ayuk's going to get a fair share of his attention in this game. So I like Brandon Ayuk for sure. The Lazard MVS thing's interesting. I like going with Lazard this week because I just don't know how healthy MVS is. We saw Lazard get a lot of work there in week 18. You'd imagine MVS is a lot healthier now because he missed week 18, got the bye week. So it's tricky. One of those guys is going to go off. Pick your poison. I like Lazard for that one, but I love the value in Byron Pringle at 42 and 57. Played him everywhere last week. I played him a lot lately. He plays out of the slot, getting a lot of work out of the slot. The way you beat the Bills' pass defense is in the slot. So there's a good chance Byron Pringle gets a lot of love in this game, especially if they're clamping down on Tyreek Hill, which they're going to try to do. I think Pringle at 42 and 57 could be quite exciting at that price point in this game. And then, you can make little arguments for a lot of these guys like, Sanders, Beasley, like you mentioned. Don't mind them. McCole Hardman's still cheap if you're going for the gusto. Hope he hits a big one. I prefer Pringle over Hardman.
Yeah,
but I get it. But I like the Jawan Jennings call. I've talked about him a few times recently. He's like their third down threat now. They're, like you said, they're dialing up plays for him. I think it was week 18. He got 2 touchdown passes. He had a decent game against Dallas. Super cheap rookie receiver. So I think he's definitely in play. So some nice value down below at wide receiver if you want to pair it up with some big dogs, or pay up at tight end, which has some of the best of the best in all of football this week.
Yeah, dude, there are so many good tight ends. You start out with this top end of Kelsey, who was just insane last week at 65 and 82. Gronk at 58 and 71. Kittle, who didn't have a good week, but you expect him to be way more involved in the passing game this week at 53 and 64. Dawson Knox up here, another high-end guy at 49 and 65. If you're picking one of those four, and I know you've done the double tight end week, and maybe this is another one for you again.
I saw someone win a lot of money. They didn't win the Millie, but someone that is a different tournament won a lot of money with double tight end last week.
Right. So it's absolutely feasible. Who do you like the most between Kelsey, Gronk, Kittle, and Knox? Because I think those are the big buys for this week.
I think just the savings with Knox is huge, but the caveat I'll mention is unlike recent, like early in the year, Knox was getting it all the time. Now he's back to more of a red zone dude because all the receivers on the Bills are healthy. So that
he was big for Josh Allen last week, though. Two
touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns. That's why it's almost boom or bust. Where Kelsey's going to have a big role regardless for Kansas City to make it work. So I think he'll get shut down. I think I still pay for Gronk though. Gronk's just gonna eat. Kelsey's got the highest ceiling though. So to pick one, I'll pick Kelsey. I'll pick Kelsey to pick one. And the worst part is I left Kittle out, and if we believe they're playing from behind, he's not a pass blocker anymore, Bogman, which we always talk about because he was a pass blocker last week. But if they're trying to keep up, he ain't a pass blocker no more.
Big shift for this week for sure.
So he'll become like the lowest owned in those four probably.
Probably, and he could easily have the biggest game. It would not be a surprise. I think my favorite is Knox just because of the price and the fact that they have continually gotten him the ball in the red zone in recent weeks. He has just really come on. It's still crazy to me. He scored no touchdowns in college, right?
Yes.
But he was on an Ole Miss team that had DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, DeMarcus Lodge, who are all fantastic wide receivers. Obviously, two of those guys, huge guys, names in the NFL now, and Knox much bigger than DeMarcus Lodge now, but he has just been incredible at 49. The rest of the guys here, if you're going with a cheap option, there's not a lot that I like. Higbee has been way more involved, right? So maybe he's on that list of 4,000 and 5,400. I don't give him too much consideration because he just hasn't had a great year. Stafford really, in his career, has not been great at getting the ball to the tight end. He was last week. Higbee got a little bit of love.
And again, people are going to see last week's game and kind of be down on the passing game when they didn't need to pass the ball.
Right.
So, like, you're going to
too many mistakes from Kyler. They didn't have to do much at all.
Yeah, like I don't want to roster Stafford, but like OBJ, Higbee, some of these guys are going to get super low owned. Like, yeah, you're going to get these guys really low owned. And we've seen with Tampa Bay, like they only gave up 15 points last week, but it was in garbage time. So they're going to give up points. It's just a matter of when. I'm not saying they're like go full on Rams, but I think like if you're looking like everyone's going to Buffalo, Kansas City or something, the Rams could be one of those cheap pieces to like put some pieces in the game to make it happen.
Right. Your boy Uzama, you called the touchdown and he scored it for you last week.
He's a great cheapie again this week. A great one.
And, I'll just say it once again. I feel like I'm a broken record and I say his name every single week, but Cameron Brate still getting plays designed for him in the red zone. He didn't score last week, but he caught one down to like, I think the 4 or the 3. It was in the red zone, right down near the goal line as well. And you could just see him walk in to any game and score a touchdown. It would not be surprising. So Brate has to be on that short list as well. So lots of good tight ends this week.
I thought you were broadcasting the game for Fox on Sunday because like in the pregame, it was like someone even mentioned almost word for word what you just said. And you said it many times. Is don't forget about Cameron Brate, who's had a great red zone presence over the recent weeks. I was just like, Bogman's right in this thing. A little behind the curtains for people if you aren't a LineStar member. And this is what I love about this tool is like you go on the dashboard here and I got it loaded for just the projections, but it gives you like the values and everything. I have it sorted by value. At the tight end position, Gronk is projected to be the best value. And he's projected to have 17.13 DK points, where Kelsey's projected for 16.61. These are just projections, but these are the kind of things if you want to go behind the curtain and look for. I love doing it just for value in general because you'll see different things that kind of stand out to you and you can see the projections. Like Uzomah's projected to get 7 points. Dawson Knox projected to get about 10. So you just kind of can mix and match, but do it for all of the positions. I just want to give you guys a little teaser there. There's lots of cool stuff you can check out by looking at the app, and I look at it weekly when I do stuff. So, and that's on the website. You don't have to even in the palm of your hands on the computer in front of you. So, lots of good stuff there. But let's go to the defense, where in these weeks it's kind of like just pick your poison for what it's worth. Yeah. I know you've had some good strategies with it. I think you can kind of keep one of your similar strategies this week.
Yeah, I mean. This is one of the harder weeks in my opinion. I want the Packers defense if I can afford it, and the price difference between the Packers and the Niners is about $700, which is the savings you would exactly get by rostering Gronk over Kelsey, by the way.
Yep.
So very, very interesting. But I mean, because you think in terms of who's going to score the least amount of points, I think you'd have to say number 1 is the Niners. After that, number 2, probably the Titans. So Bengals defense has to be in play as well and they're at 2,700, 3,400, which isn't a bad price either. These are dart throws. The Bills and Chiefs have the highest over. So if I had to pick one defense, I'd probably take the Bills. Just to say, maybe Patrick Mahomes gets those turnovers in there, something along those lines. But Packers are number one because Niners aren't a high-flying team anyway. And Jimmy G with the injury and the turnover-worthy plays and all that stuff, you hope the Packers take one back to the house. They're the most expensive, but it's for that reason too. So also you could take advantage of maybe the Bucks against the Rams and hope that Matt Stafford turns into a pumpkin and has to throw the ball 40 times again and makes a couple big time boneheaded mistakes like he has been over the past month. So you can pick through here and find a good reason for all of them, but they're all bunched up very, very close this week.
Yeah, Packers is obviously a great one, but if I have to narrow it down, I want the Bucks because I do think Stafford turns into a pumpkin. So I think that is possible. He could prove me wrong though, because they do have explosion in that team. But I'll take the Bucks. We've seen the way they can turn the ball over and everything. But if you're saving, I love the Bengals. I love them as much as we talked about Henry. We talked about this and that. Tannehill will make mistakes from time to time. Tannehill will also get sacked, and that's a beautiful thing. So.
Has a good pass rush on this team, too. That's what took down Carr. I mean, you saw him kind of curl up a couple times. Hendrickson stomped him. Hubbard was in there a couple times. I mean, this pass rush, they did the right thing by going out and getting Trey Hendrickson. Very smart move by the Bengals.
So I think the Bengals are very, very, very live at that point. Before we head on out of here, let's talk strategy. I'll just say this much. If you don't stack Kansas City Buffalo, you're probably on a different wavelength, so you have an advantage there in tournaments. The one thing I will say that I would recommend doing is you can obviously full fade it if you want, and that might be the way to go in massive tournaments. But if you're in smaller tournaments, I would say stack another game, but have like two pieces of Buffalo Kansas. Like have Kelsey and one of the receivers from Buffalo, or have Kelsey and Singletary, or have Knox and Pringle, even if you want to go two cheap guys. Have some pieces of it, so if it goes off, you still get some, but try to be different elsewhere. Because with these 8 really good football teams, there's so much quality talent out there that the floors are a lot more similar than they are in big weeks, if that makes sense. So
I kind of put together a studs and scrubsy type of lineup already, where I went with Henry and Kupp, Burrows, my quarterback, Singletary's my second back. Then I have Chase, Beasley, Higbee, Juwan Jennings, and the Titans defense as well. So
it works. It works.
Yeah, it's not a bad one.
There's lots of ways to go about it, and so that's what's fun about it. They didn't give me the go ahead, but let's do it anyways, Bogman. Since we have 8 teams left, so this might be the last weekend to really do it, right? So let's give the fans what they want, and in order to get what you want, you got to follow LineStar on Twitter at LineStar App and at LineStar NFL. And they'll tweet out the touchdown calls of the week. So if you retweet the touchdown calls of the week from Bogman, myself, and Ryan Humphreys, and you get paired up with one of us because you're a lucky person, you have a chance to win some free swag. So this might be the last one. Maybe we'll do it again. I don't know. Don't want to miss out. So Bogman, on this divisional round, who is your touchdown call of the week?
Hey, look, I want it to happen, and I'm hoping I'm going to put it in motion here. Let's go with the king, Derrick Henry, to score a touchdown against Cincinnati. Let's go Titans. Tighten up, baby. I'm a big Titans fan this week.
I was hoping you would, even though you picked the Bengals. I was hoping they can lose by 3. You're good. I was hoping you would pick Henry because someone had to, and I would have done it if you didn't. So that's a good one. Get the wheels in motion. I'm with you there. I'm going to go to – you started the weekend with the first game. I'm going to finish the weekend with the late game. I'm going to go with Travis Kelsey.
Okay.
Give me Travis Kelsey finding the house in this one. I almost got really creative and went with a longer shot in that game, but we're going to keep it with Travis Kelsey, try to get these guys some free swag. You took Derrick Henry. I took Travis Kelsey. Let's see who Mr. Humphreys comes up with. Let's get some free swag with the people before we get to the Super Bowl and the off season. But any closing thoughts, Bogman?
No, it's going to be a fun weekend, man. We're going to get some legacy cemented here. This is what the playoffs are all about. They're fun, close matchups. Curious to see if if you had to pick one upset, what would be the most surprising upset? Niners over the Packers?
It'd be Niners for sure. That'd be the one. But second would be the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams too. Just someone knocking off Brady at all. But I think we'll get at least one out of one of these games, some type of upset. So should be interesting. The one I picked was the one I don't want to happen in Cincinnati, but they can't be ignored. They've been playing
No,
too
cannot.
well. So.
Joey Burrow, baby. Swagalicious. So everybody, make sure you check out Bogman on Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm at BDentric. We'll be back with, if you guys are watching the LineStar YouTube channel, you can see Bogman doing the old New York Yankee fan thumbs down thing. But make sure you check us out on Twitter. We'll be back with you guys to recap the weekend as usual, but enjoy the fun-filled time. Good luck, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to B-Snap Podcast, presented by LineStar app. Please like, comment, subscribe, and rate for good karma in your fantasy football game.